My name is Tom Freiling, and I'm a part of the team at Gryt, which is an amazing team of cancer patients and survivors who are doing some amazing things to support cancer patients all over. And I've been asked by the team to talk about something that is actually kind of hard to talk about, and I'm smiling this morning because I love to bring hope and joy to everybody. But I've been asked to speak about peace, finding peace during a difficult cancer diagnosis. And I'm not an expert. I'm not a psychologist or a medical doctor. I don't have a science background, but I've been there because my wife, sadly, lost a battle to cancer, and I don't like to think about it as a lost battle, but she received a very difficult diagnosis, a stage 4 colon cancer diagnosis at age 32. This was a number of years ago. And of course, it was a very chaotic time, right? And so I want to talk to you this morning about how to find peace during a difficult cancer diagnosis. And I'm really not coming this morning to you out of sadness. It really is out of strength and a desire to give strength and peace to anybody right now who is really dealing with a very difficult cancer diagnosis. And, you know, I think that everyone who has cancer, who has been diagnosed, thinks about the possibility that the diagnosis might get very difficult. So I just want to speak to you for a few minutes about how my wife and myself and my family and others around us found peace during this very difficult time. And when I say a difficult cancer diagnosis, I don't mean necessarily a terminal cancer diagnosis, but a difficult diagnosis, one where the doctor says that that the percentages are not in your favor, right? The odds are not in your favor, and where you might really be struggling with how to deal with that, and how to find treatment options and what to do next. Again, a very chaotic time. So I learned, and my wife taught me 4 things that I'd like to share with you that I think brought peace to us during this time, and I hope it can bring peace to you also. First of all, I think it's really important during a tough diagnosis to be able to accept it or deny it at the same time, and I think you can do both. I think it's important to accept the diagnosis that you're given and try to find peace with it. But I also think it's fine to deny the diagnosis that you've been given. Your doctor's job, the job of an oncologist, is to treat you as a cancer patient, and it's really important to do what the doctor says, but it does not necessarily have to believe in the diagnosis that's been given to us or been given to you. I think it's important to learn how to accept the diagnosis, and at the same time, to fight the diagnosis, to not accept it, to not believe it. And I think it's really important for caretakers to give people, the patient, the dignity to do both of those things. I think there's great dignity in accepting a tough cancer diagnosis, and I think there's also great dignity in denying it and saying that you do not accept it and that you're going to live. And I think that you can do both of those things at once. And I think that will bring peace to you, accepting that you can do both of those things at the same time. Secondly, I think it's important to view life from a different lens. I'm colorblind, and I can't see very many colors the way other people do. I noticed there are new glasses on the market. I don't have a pair yet, but then when you put them on, it changes your colors and you can see colors like everybody else does. I'd love to get a pair someday, but that would allow me to view life from a different perspective. When you have a tough cancer diagnosis, like, everything changes. And I think it's important to find peace during that time, to put on a different pair of glasses and not wallow in self-pity. It's really hard to do that, but I think it's important. And it's one of the great legacies that my wife left behind during her cancer battle, was that she did not wallow in self-pity. She truly put on a different pair of glasses. She put on a new lens and started to look at life differently than she did before the difficult diagnosis. It's not an easy thing to do, but I think as long as you try to look at life the same way as you did before the diagnosis, I think it's a lot harder to find peace that way. Thirdly, I think it's important to think about the legacy that you're going to leave behind. And this takes great responsibility. But how you deal with your cancer diagnosis and how you deal with a very difficult cancer diagnosis will really impact everybody else around you. Those people who love you, your family, your friends, and they will remember, maybe in great detail, how you dealt with the difficulty and the chaos of your challenging cancer diagnosis. So spend some time thinking about that. How do you want people to think about how you dealt with this? For your family and your friends, everybody's going through their own version of hell during a cancer diagnosis. And the patient often looks at it very differently than the caretaker or a friend or another loved one. But everybody is looking to you to see how you deal with it. And again, this takes so much responsibility, but I think it would bring, I know it brings great peace to be able to do that. And so think about your legacy, think about how others are looking at you and thinking about you. You can bring so much strength and inspiration to other people. I don't think we should minimize that. In fact, I think we should maximize that. The strength that you're going to bring other people through a really challenging time is going to have a lifelong impact on everybody else. And I think all of our speakers today who have either been a cancer patient, a survivor, or have been around others could attest to that same thing. And then the fourth thing, the last thing I'll touch on is, which I think brings great peace, is think about praying. I pray with cancer patients every day. Whether they're Christian, Jew, whatever their belief system is, because I believe every cancer patient deserves prayer, no matter what they believe. And some people in this room might pray every day, and some people may never pray at all, but think about doing that. Cancer is tough because science can fail you, and your doctors can fail you, your nurses can fail you, your hospital can fail you, your surgeon can fail you. They may all be like the best in the world, but they can still fail you because there's no cure to cancer, right? So, but I think many cancer patients have found that when they pray, it gives them strength, because many people find that God doesn't fail them, not in the way that science might fail them. And it's so important to believe in science and to do everything you can to work with your doctors and oncologists. But at the end of the day, to find true peace, I think you need to dig really deep within and rely on your spirit, find a way to rely on God. And there's no good way to pray. There's no bad way, no right way, or no wrong way. My wife spent many, many hours in prayer, and I know that it brought her so much peace. It brought me and my entire family so much peace. So the other thing I'll say about prayer is that it's an amazing way to be completely honest with somebody, to be completely transparent with somebody, and that somebody being God, whatever that means to you. It's an amazing way to just put it all out there, lay it all out on the line, and be honest with somebody and ask for their help. I read once a psychologist did a study about how many people believe in God before and after a cancer diagnosis. And the percentage of people who said they believed in God after skyrocketed. It went way up. And in the chemo room, it was 100%. So it might be something you're not comfortable doing, but I encourage you to try it and maybe ask other people to pray for you too. And you might be amazed at how much strength that can bring you. So, again, I come at you guys this morning with everybody, not out of sadness, but out of strength. A difficult cancer diagnosis is difficult. It is pure chaos. And, but I think with the understanding that you can accept it or deny it. And I really think it's important that you ask everybody around you to give you the dignity to not accept it, for as long as you want to, and to ask everybody to support you in that. As I reach out to cancer patients on a daily basis, I ran into a lot of people who were given a dire diagnosis, and years later, they're still surviving, right? They might still be fighting it. They might not be in complete remission, but the odds, the percentages as it was presented to them by a doctor didn't occur. And so I just encourage everybody to keep believing. And I want to end with a quote that from one of my favorite authors, Richard Bach, who wrote the book Jonathan Livingston Seagull. I love this. Here is a test to find whether your mission on earth is finished. If you're still alive, it isn't. So hope you guys can take some solace in my words this morning. I'm not very good at talking and also looking at comments, but maybe as I close, if people want to just comment with how they find peace, how they are finding peace, whether or not your diagnosis is very difficult right now, or maybe somewhat less, although they're all difficult. So bless you guys. Thanks for listening, and hope this was helpful in some way this morning.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you to Tom. That was amazing. My name is Lauren. I'm the programs coordinator at Gryt, and I wanted to go ahead and introduce our next speaker. And we are going to be having Luana on. She is the CEO of Caring Bridge, and her session is about what will help you heal. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Luana. I just want to set us, I'm waving so to make sure you can see me. And before I go to PowerPoint, I just want to say while I am doing that, I recognize this is a lot of heavy, emotional, deep information. So while I'm pulling up my PowerPoint, I will ask you to take a deep breath. It's always good to be conscious of the physical and the mental at the same time. And so while I'm pulling this up, I'll just ask you to do that, please. Okay, I'm going to start today with a story. I want to tell you about going to a NICU about 3 years ago with my friend Joanne. And Joanne had a little baby 23 years ago, just June 1997. Her baby's name was Bridget. And she was 26 weeks. She weighed 1 pound. And we were going there on the anniversary of her birth. And Kathy was one of the nurses there at the NICU, and she met Joanne and I and happened to be on duty the night that Bridget was born. And one of the things that we talked about was just remembering that day. And I'm truly never going to forget this image of Kathy putting her hand inside this incubator, a porthole. It's Joanne's hand putting her hand in the place where her own baby was born all those years ago. And when we left the NICU, we were talking about how losing her baby, Bridget, so early in her marriage, somehow drew her and her husband, Darren, closer together. And since her baby's passing, they've been able to overcome whatever other obstacles came their way. And then she said something to me that is the very essence of the message I want to deliver to you today, which is that, and I'm going to quote her here, she said, "A lot of healing happened through our group of family and friends. They have taken this journey with us, and through their support, we found a path toward healing." And that's the idea I want to talk a little bit about. It's an idea that's very simple, but it's very powerful. That healing is possible and valuable regardless of health outcome. And that idea is something that I have the opportunity to work on as CEO of Caring Bridge. I'm very, very grateful to work for this organization. It's for those of you that don't know it, and I know many, many people with cancer use our service, but we are a global nonprofit social network for rallying support around patients and their family caregivers on any kind of health journey. And that day that Caring Bridge was launched on Bridget's birthday, June 7th, 1997, it was born out of our founder, Sana Mering, calling the website that she created in the basement of her home in Minnesota, Caring for Bridget. And so Caring Bridge came about after Joanne and Darren said to Sana, "Can you let everybody know what's going on?" And after making 2 calls, she decided, oh my goodness, there's got to be a better way. This is horrible. And you got to remember, 97 was pre-Google, if you can remember that, for those of us who were here then, pre-Facebook, pre any social network you're using today, pre-pervasive use of email, and certainly before the mobile revolution. So she was very early in her thinking about how do you connect people using technology. And she created that better way by creating CaringBridge. And of course, CaringBridge is baby Bridget's legacy. So just fast forward through 23 years, hundreds of thousands of sites by patients, caregivers, and because of the generosity of our donors, CaringBridge has been visited over 2.3 billion times by people in all 50 states in every country around the world. And I love to think about that because you just think of all those folks who are connecting with someone they love, going through a very trying time. So that way that she talks about healing, it's something really familiar to us at CaringBridge. And I say this because 300,000 people will come to a CaringBridge site today, every day, any kind of diagnosis, injury, illness, chronic conditions. And so we witness, like nobody else, the strength and power that can come from meaningful connection. So what's new is that in this global pandemic, we are seeing more people using CaringBridge, not only because of COVID-19, but because you really need your community during trying times and conditions that existed before the last 2 months. That's, of course, many of you who are participating today. But what's not changed is that the essence of what CaringBridge is that place of connection and community to power healing. And so what we've observed that is what's on your screen here, that no matter what, people still need that love and hope and compassion, and that healing is possible even if cure is not possible. And a few years ago, we set out to honor these people, like many of you, who have so much wisdom to share about the very tough thing that you're facing. And we wanted to tap into that collective wisdom. So we went around the country to talk to several families to better understand what they can share with us that we can help others learn. And we were very fortunate to work with our camera shy partner, David McLean. He's a National Geographic photographer and documentarian. And so far, we've met with over 40 families who represent the over 800,000 sites that have been created at CaringBridge since 1997. And every patient and caregiver that we met, we asked them to describe what healing looks like for them. And I want to share the findings from that work. But there were 3 specific questions that we asked them in this work. And the first question was, how do you define healing? What does it mean for you? The second question, what has helped you heal if you've been able to find healing? And candidly, there were many folks that we spoke to who had not found that yet. And then finally, what keeps you going no matter what? Are there any universal truths that could help other people in a similar situation? And I'm going to share with you what we learned through this work, but I'm going to pause here as well, because what I'd love for you to do is to jot down what you might say to the answers to these questions, and hopefully as I go through the learnings here, you'll get some other ideas on what helped you heal. Tom already referenced a few of them in the earlier presentation. So if you're willing to, please share them in the text, and it'll give other people good ideas. And then I will share with you here what else we've learned. So before I go on with those examples, I want to tell you that scientists will tell you this, that there is no universal definition of what healing is. There's no certified definition. So what we can tell you is that almost every patient and caregiver we met said it was something like this. Healing is being able to move ahead with what remains. Healing is trying to make yourself whole again. So as you think about those questions, think about that definition. Sorry. I want to share this first example with you. This is Juan Martinez. He's a firefighter in Uvalde, Texas. And he's here with his son, Jackson, and his father. And they're sitting in church where they spent a lot of time when their son, Jackson, who was 2, had neuroblastoma. And they're a really wonderful family. They have a deep faith. I'm really sorry. I just got to turn that phone off. Apologize for that technology, right? They have a deep faith, and they are so grounded in their faith, and they looked to their doctors for medical care, but they looked to God for healing. So being able to believe for them was their path toward healing. So I'll share another example here. This is Doug and Leanne O'Donnell of Houston. 4 months, when their baby was 4 months old, he had cancer in both eyes. And they really opened their hearts to the support of family and friends during this very difficult time. I will tell you their baby is doing great. She shared with us, and this is exactly what Leanne shared with us. She said, so many people have come alongside us. They have carried the burden of life so we can focus on our son. They have helped us heal. And what a testament to the power of connection that you can get in belonging to a community who's really there to support you and love you and want to help. Here is another example. This is Jeff Edwards of Herman, Minnesota. He's a member of the Army 82nd Airborne. He went on to become a sheriff's deputy. He was a SWAT team's marksman, a real warrior. And then when he was on vacation, he got knocked over by a rogue wave when he was in the water. It actually broke his back, turned his life completely upside down. And while he was being cared for at the VA, he realized he had to figure out how to make meaning out of what had happened to him. So he believes that his accident simply could not be the defining experience of his life. And for him to be, he had to make sense of something that absolutely made no sense. So today he hunts, he works full-time. He's become an advocate for the Paralyzed Veterans of America. He's also a supporter of CaringBridge in sharing his story with others to have them understand that healing is possible from even a catastrophic injury. So what did we find in this work? Well, what we found was 3 really crystal clear themes. Tom referenced one already. And this is the first one, which is about believe. You know, the whole purpose of this work is to give people some inspiration and learning on what they can, how they can find their own path toward healing. But the other thing I want to add is, how do we integrate this kind of thinking into the healthcare system, into clinical practices? So especially now, you know, patients, if they can, and certainly caregivers, need the support of their community to get through this challenging time. So this is the first theme that we started to see in this work. Faith and spirituality, like the Martinez family. But what we also learned is that it doesn't have to be God. People found belief in music, nature, meditation. You know, it really is with all across the board what believe really means, because part of it was God and a lot of it was God, but a lot of it was a lot of other things as well. And the second theme is about belonging. So family and friends, it's just like the O'Donnell family. They felt that that sorrow they had was cut in half, and the joy is doubled when they're part of a community. You know, we all need each other through both the highs and the lows, and the belonging to a community of some sort really helped people through this. And I'm sure that resonates with so many of you who are participating today. And then there's also B, you know, how do you make meaning out of what happened to you? And it's Jeff Edwards is a perfect example of this. You know, he reframed his focus. He realized, I can't be 100% of who I was then, but I can be 100% of who I am right now. He's also a good example of that meaning making and purpose by advocating for conditions he cares deeply about. We see this very often at CaringBridge, that people will take the situation that they're in and then advocate for finding solutions for the health condition they're in. And frankly, also connecting with others to experience loss as well. So what we discovered is these themes are evolving into a framework, and we really wanted to start the conversation about what we learned so that people can find their own path toward wholeness. And so I got really excited about this work when we started it a few years ago. And part of that is because people can find and can be empowered to find healing on their own. Now, we can't, of course, determine the outcome of our health condition. We need doctors for that. We need our community for that. We need faith. We need trying to make sense of it. But what we learned is in our multi-trillion-dollar healthcare system, a framework for this actually is not integrated anywhere. So why? Well, the first thing that we learned is, and we know that traditionally healing is thought of as something that clinicians do with medical intervention and trying to cure disease. For example, I'll just ask you to think about this. When was the last time a clinician of yours, a healthcare professional, asked you, what do you think might help you heal? That is a very powerful question and something that we should all be thinking about as we go through these journeys. And there's really a vacuum around focusing on the power of what patients and caregivers can do to help heal themselves. And again, we're not suggesting that, you know, this alone can help determine your health outcome, but we don't always think about of when people can conjure their own sense of healing. So for this to actually be a framework that can be integrated into mainstream healthcare application, you need science. And, you know, we're not scientists at CaringBridge, but we're really, really lucky because we collaborate with a lot of people who are. And they've been helping us to measure, quantify what patients and caregivers are articulating to us. And I'll just share a couple of highlights of some of that work. We're working with the University of Minnesota, their computer science department, clinicians, and the Center for Spirituality and Healing. We've been seeing the benefits of things like gratitude practices, loving kindness practices, and the importance of emotional, spiritual, and instrumental support. Also working with Mayo Clinic on studying stress reduction associated with telling people your story, and then the Health Story Collaborative in Boston, which is a nonprofit, and they are all about sharing the benefits of sharing your journey with your family and friends. So these are not light undertakings. The researchers in the conference, in the summit, will understand that, but we do think it'd be possible for us to develop a framework that can be integrated into healthcare systems. So one quick other example I want to share with you is Tracy Lopez. I talked about how some folks cannot find healing and they're working toward that. This is Tracy. Her daughter was struck by a drunk driver 10 years ago in front of her home. She's faced some really difficult situations trying to get Eva through her traumatic brain injury. She does belong to a very, very strong community. She's actually made sense of being by framing her focus to establish a nonprofit to help others, parents with kids with traumatic brain injuries. But she told us that she has not found that healing herself. And so I share this example because Tracy is a great example. She hasn't found it yet, but boy, does she try. And I do want us to know that, you know, that's really all we can do, is try to find that path toward healing that will help ourselves as we get through difficult times. So I want to share a short video with you. And by short, it's about 9 minutes. This is a culmination, a little film that David McLean helped create with us that shows the key learnings of what we got from the multiple families in this project. And I thought it was important to share because it just did such a good job showing all the different things that you can learn from finding healing on your own. So I'll just pull it up right now. Just give me a minute. I had this all ready to go, and I'm sorry that it's taken a little bit for me to pull it up. Can you see my screen now? Sorry about that. I thought I was all set. Just give me a thumbs up if you can see this.
If you said to me, would you want this to happen again so you could go through it again, I'd say, hell no, are you crazy? But nonetheless, you do recognize that out of really bad stuff comes a lot of good stuff.
It was just funny to name my tumor. Joe Poli is really, really mean, and he messed with the wrong boy.
I think that Gavin is here today because he took healing to another level. You know, he took every bad situation that he was put in and he made it better. And it showed us as his parents how to live each day, how to be thankful for the little things.
People think sick people should look sick, but that's just not the way I roll. That's just not the way I walk out the door. Really, I make sure that I walk out looking a whole lot better than I really do feel. A lot of people look at me as though it's kind of an oxymoron, almost like sick people shouldn't look good, especially when you're on oxygen. I don't even have any shame in my game that I have on, 3-4-inch heels with my cannula in to breathe. Having a positive attitude, I am convinced, is what helps you live longer, and just to go out and celebrate and buy some new shoes. Look cute.
If you didn't know my story, you wouldn't have ever guessed that I'd ever gone through something like that. I don't come off as the type of person that would have ever attempted suicide. I bought the truck a couple months before the attempt, and it was my baby. Every time that I'd start to get down, I just look at the truck and remember that's waiting for me. That's going to be how I get through this. They say that time heals all wounds. I don't necessarily think that's true. I think time just makes them easier to cope with.
And all of a sudden, I heard that terrible screech that we all fear, that we never want to hear.
Everyone walked away except for Teddy, who was life-flighted to Savannah. Well, Teddy was in a coma for a month and had multiple surgeries to repair his crushed skull. At every point of his recovery, we had people praying for very specific things, that he would wake up, that the pressure in his brain would subside, that he would speak again, that he would see again, that he would walk again. And prayer, it really is the only thing. After they've exhausted all the medical treatments, that's all that's left.
Halo is my angel. Halo is my sweetheart. Halo is there for me. Halo's feet never touch the ground. She's not just a dog. She is my angel dog. From the time that I actually woke up from my coma, I have felt as blessed as a person could. If she weren't here for me and being as calm and easygoing as she is, and who I could just look at and grab up and hold, I'm not really sure how far I would be on my recovery.
It's so silly, it's so dumb, but the accident in our mind, it was such a gift for us. It changed the way we view everything. We are incredibly appreciative of the little things, and it sounds very cliched, appreciate the little things, but boy do we ever. We appreciate seeing him walk the dog. Not because he's walking the dog, but because he's walking. We are so grateful when he's out there playing baseball and he loses. Because the fact that he was able to play the baseball game is a miracle. It's incredible in and of itself. When you have tragedy happen, whether it's cancer, some sort of illness or an accident, you can choose how you look at it. We just took stock, we stopped and said, what are we doing? Where are we going? Who do we want to be?
It is sad that it takes a catastrophic event sometimes to put it into real perspective. And having that reality smack you in the face, in my mind, that's motivation enough. Healing is a process. The process starts from within yourself, and you've got to want to heal. You've got to want to be better, and you've got to have a drive to be better. If you put your mind to do something, you can do anything. There's proof of that all over the world.
Well, the kind of brain cancer I have has very poor average survival rates and not a lot of encouraging options for treatment. So I've done a lot of medical treatment, but I've learned that for me to stay moving forward and stay moving towards wellness, I've learned I have to be doing other things in addition to the medical treatment, or I can feel myself withering. So I know that it helps calm my mind and helps me breathe easier, and sometimes if I have a headache, it helps that go away if I go sit next to the river. It's a mystery. I don't know all that it does, but I trust that it does something. My understanding of the main work of healing is receiving love and opening up to that, and that medical treatments complement that and can support that and make space for that. But the essence is really opening up to love in the world through nature and community and creativity.
Who gives a damn about whether or not you feel sorry for yourself? No one cares. I don't care. Who's going to care? Just keep moving.
You want what Mike's got? You wouldn't pray to get what he's got. That's right. Pain never comes naturally. So nobody prays for pain, but everybody prays to grow. Well, what happens when you're going through stuff that's painful is you're growing.
My dad would always say that your life and its surroundings are a direct reflection of your own attitude. And I knew that once I was diagnosed, I couldn't change that diagnosis, but I could change my attitude. And there were so many nights that I would be feeling different emotions, and I would just go to the church where I worked late at night by myself. Sometimes it was 11, 12 o'clock in the morning, and I would just go and sit at the piano and play for as long as I could until I felt like the emotions that I had inside of me were able to be released.
And I would go down to my garage with a piece of paper that said cancer, cancer, and I'd tape it to my backdrop, and I'd go on camera and I'd blow it apart with my machine gun. Even if you do fight your guts out, sometimes you're not going to win, but continuing to fight, be bullheaded, be stubborn.
Because there are going to be seasons of your life that suck. There are going to be things that happen, people that die, people that are taken from you, and it doesn't make sense. And sometimes you ask the question, you for sure ask the question, why? Why does this happen to this person? But I just know that there's hope. There's hope. There's a different hope. And why not? Why not trust in something? Why not believe in something that can give you that peace and that joy and that comfort?
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you listening today. I'm just very grateful for everything that you do to try to find healing. I want you to know that it's possible. I want you to feel like it's for you. I hope you got something out of that video. It was so powerful when David helped us create that. And I know you'll find something great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luana. That was an amazing presentation. So many great videos, and it's just so great to see that it's okay to have different ways that you're healing. And I really hope everybody took that to heart, because your healing might be different from my healing. And the important part is that you're trying to heal, or you're already healing and helping others heal. So thank you, Luana. Next up, I want to go ahead and introduce our next session. This is going to be led by Jackie. She is the Director of Programs and Outreach at Emmerman Angels. And for her session, she's going to be talking a little bit about what they do. And she will also have a panel of caregivers on with her today, speaking about caregiving, connection, and positivity. So let's welcome Jackie.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And all the panelists, you guys have been awesome. Gryt, you're amazing for putting this all together. I appreciate it so much. So again, my name is Jackie Harrigat. I am the Director of Programs and Outreach for Emmerman Angels One-on-One Cancer Support. So hopefully you guys have all heard about us, but if you haven't, let me tell you a little bit about what we do. So we are able to provide comfort and understanding to anybody going through the cancer fight, a previvor, a survivor, a fighter, a caregiver, anywhere in the journey, and connect you personally, one-on-one, to someone else who's been there. So any experience that you're having, we can try to find someone else anywhere in the world, on any stage, any cancer type, any age, to someone else who understands what you're going through because they've been in your shoes. And we do this all for free. So we're in over 100 countries, and we have over 11,000 mentor angels, which is amazing to be able to say that we have that many volunteers. They're volunteers, they don't get paid to do this. And why do they do this? Because of the power of connection and what it means to give back. And so I thought today it would be really an honor to talk about, not me, not being a, the director myself, but about the power of connection. I get to introduce you to some of our amazing caregiver mentor angels. I'm so honored by that, to be able to show you a little bit of what they're doing and how they've turned the negative into a positive. So I'm thrilled to do that. But I also want to just chat and let you know how I got involved with Emmerman Angels just a bit. So unfortunately, I had lost my mom, my aunt, my grandmother, all to cancer. So when I was going through those experiences, I didn't have anybody to help me through those experiences. I felt very isolated. It was very much a mental issue for me. I didn't have any way to express my emotions, and I was very alone. And so when I heard about the Emmerman Angels mission, I thought, this is so easy. It makes so much sense. I wish I had somebody there when I was going through my experiences. So of course, I'd want to be a part of this. And so that was 2012, and here I am, still involved and loving every moment and being able to give back in a way. But this has all been so therapeutic for me, which is not what I anticipated. And I'm so grateful to be able to connect with amazing people every day. And so I'd like to introduce you to our first panelist and actually my mentee. So Elizabeth, please take it away.
Hello, I'm Elizabeth, and I am Jackie's mentee, as she said. In 2013, I found out that my mom's cancer was terminal, and I was her caregiver, and I needed to find support to get me through what was in the future that I didn't know. And so I reached out to Emmerman Angels and got in contact with Jackie. And from there, she walked me through the whole process of getting the hospital bed and all the stuff that I would need for caring for my mom, and, going through her last days and her funeral and the grieving process. And, there was nothing at all like having someone that had been there that understood what you were saying on the other end of the phone, that felt what you felt. And that was priceless to me. So about a year after my mom passed away, she passed in June of 14. In 15, I decided that I wanted to help others, to be there for others. So I volunteered to become a mentor myself. And so from there, I have mentored several ladies that have mothers that had lung cancer. And we are all getting through the grieving process together. So Emmerman Angels has been a blessing to me. I'm very blessed to be a part of it. And I will go ahead and introduce our next Emmerman Angel, and that is Nancy. Nancy.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So my oldest son was diagnosed with cancer in 2007, and I was not aware of Emmerman's Angels. I wish I had been. It was a lonely time for him and for us, his family. Fast forward to 2012, I founded a nonprofit and luckily was introduced to Emmerman's Angels not long after that. And I was so moved by what they do that I thought, if I can help one other person who felt the way that I did when my son had cancer, which is, any cancer diagnosis is terrible. I think being a mom, it's especially hard. So I became a mentor angel, and I have mentored a few other moms whose sons had cancer. They didn't have the same cancer as my son. They had different cancers, but they were, nonetheless, we all very much connected on the level of being a mom and having a child go through something pretty horrendous. And one woman in particular was just amazing. We talked for 3 hours the first time we talked. And her son, unfortunately, did pass away. He was joining the Navy, and they found a brain tumor during his physical. And she, you know, we stayed in touch, and she just said, talking to me, just feeling like somebody else understood, especially so soon after diagnosis, helped them in the grieving process. So that's a little bit about me. Now I'm going to turn it over to a wonderful woman that I've been lucky enough to meet. Linda, take it away.
Linda, you're on mute.
Okay. Hello, can everyone see me? Good to go? Okay. First, I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to Emmerman Angels and our stories and the power of our connection. So I was actually, I entered the cancer world, so to speak, in 2013 when my nephew Christian, who was 17 years old, was diagnosed with synovial cell sarcoma. And I was his caregiver. It was my sister's baby, her firstborn, and being really close to my sister, I was living with her and basically took all the time, quit my job, and was there for her. So he goes into hospice, unfortunately, and at the time I was dating my husband, which was an even worse turning point for us, because while my nephew is on hospice at home, my boyfriend at the time goes into the hospital only to find out that he has cancer. So it was just a lot of back and forth at that time. Pretty devastating for us to think that, holy crap, I've got two things happening right here, right now, just completely blindsided. And that's when our journey began, and we found out about Emmerman Angels. My husband was diagnosed with leukemia, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, being pH positive, which means you have a mutated chromosome that makes your cancer a little bit more aggressive. And that's when my husband's sister told me that there's a one-on-one cancer support system that pairs up a fighter with a survivor with the same cancer. And it was just pretty shocking that someone had gone through the same thing that he did, that was able to, someone that he could just call at any time on his worst days, that had the same diagnosis, that could tell him what his procedures were going to be like. Someone that would just listen, that gave him hope. And I know that if he had not had his mentor, our journey would have been so much different. You know, they talked about his anxiety, his depression, and he was just really uplifting for him. You know, someone that gave him hope. So that's when my husband told me about the program for caregivers. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. I want to do something for somebody that, you know, with his great experience, I'm like, I want to share this as well. I want to empower somebody. And so Immerman Angels knew all about us, paired us up. I was paired up with 2 Spanish-speaking women who were caregivers, and it was just very rewarding to be able to be there for them and help them translate the after visit summaries, and you know, just someone that wasn't, you know, that could help them feel more comfortable and they can empathize with their situation. And I know hospitals offer these services with the social workers, and but it's just different when you're not under the pressure of the light of the hospital, and you know, you're just a person to them. You're just a friend, and they can vent and just be there for you. So Immerman Angels knew about our family, and that my boyfriend at the time, we were getting married. And that's when Epic Experience came into place, which is Nancy, who you just heard from. A dress was donated to them, and they knew we were getting married. So they collaborated with Immerman Angels, and I ended up with a $10,000 Vera Wang dress, a full wedding that was, you know, paid for. Live jazz band, photos, decorations, anything you can think of. And this was at the time when, you know, we didn't even know if my husband was going to live or die. You know, we didn't know what was going to be the outcome of his transplant. We didn't know any of this. So we had a group of people that were cheering us on that we didn't even know, you know, sorry, I said I wasn't going to cry. But, you know, at this time, it was just, you know, we didn't feel alone, and we had so much support from so many organizations that instead of competing against each other, they collaborated. We had Wish Upon a Wedding, we had Immerman Angels, we had Epic Experience, and it was just such a ray of light for us, a light at the end of the tunnel, something positive for us to focus on while we were going through this. And the mourning that I was going through with my nephew, it just was something that I looked forward to every day, and I couldn't be more grateful for that experience. So through those difficult times, we weren't alone. Gabe having a mentor, me being a mentor for caregivers, it was truly uplifting. And, you know, I couldn't imagine our journey without them. So I just want to thank you guys for listening. And I want to share a little positive photo collage that I made. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's our wedding, us getting the dress from Immerman Angels and Epic Experience, and our happy ending. And just know that you guys are not alone, that, you know, this journey doesn't end for us, but there's resources out there, and there's so many things that can come from just connecting with other people. So thank you very much, and I'm going to hand you back to Jackie, and thank you for letting me share my experience.
How lucky am I to follow that? Sheesh. Thank you, Linda. That's amazing. Your story is fantastic. And, you know, that's why I wanted to really show you that there is inspiration, there is hope. There are so many things that can happen when you just reach out for support. You never know the connections you will make. And this power of connection, one of the stories, one of the reasons why I wanted to really bring on my mentee too, is because she's been so therapeutic for me. It's been mental support for me. You know, I didn't even like realize all the stuff that I had gone through, because you just go through it and you kind of just push that stuff down when you go through it, and it's in your gut, and you just move on because you got to go on to the next day, and you don't think about it, and you just try to stay positive. But when you have somebody else going through it and you're hearing the stories, all that stuff comes back. But it is so nice to be able to say, you know what? Yeah, I felt that way, and you know, it totally makes sense, and no, you're not crazy, because I felt that same way. And it's very powerful. So the meaning of connection is there. And so one of the stories that I wanted to share was that with Elizabeth, she was my mentee, and I felt like she was my baby. And so, you know, every time she'd ask me questions, you know, I would be like a mother trying to think through, how do I answer, how do I respond, how am I sensitive about this? And so then when she became a mentor, I was so proud. I was like, oh, she's graduating. And that was a really cool experience. And then when she got matched and she became a mentor, she called me and she's like, Jackie, my mentee said blah, 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 blah. And I said blah, 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 blah. Was that right? And I was like, oh, I feel like a grandma. I'm like, I'm too young to be feeling like a grandma, but it was a very proud moment and something that I had not anticipated. And, you know, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for having all these women and so many other people too. And I just noticed that it's all women on the panel. I do want to emphasize, we do have men in our database as well. So we do have caregivers that are males and fighters and survivors. As Linda highlighted, her husband is one of our mentor angels. So anyway, so the next part of what we wanted to talk about was not only the positive connection part, but also about what we did with negative experiences and are turning them into something positive. So as you can see now, I'm helping thousands of people. It is my honor truly every day to be able to help people and impact these lives. And I wanted to show you what else people are doing out there that have been impacted so negatively, but are pushing through it and turning that negative into a positive. So Elizabeth's going to talk about what she's doing now.
Okay. So on top of Inmerman angels and Jackie being my angel during the passing of my mom, the one thing that I found difficult was the lack of support, like in person. So when you're caregiving, you are so tired and you're busy and you have, you know, so many things to do that it's hard to take time for yourself and take care of yourself through the process. So I reached out to a support group online on Facebook, and it is called Cancer Caregiver Support Group. It's a closed group, so you have to request to join. And once my mom had been gone for probably a year, I decided to help admin the group. So we have right now about 1,500 members, and it is just for caregivers, no patients, no doctors, just for the caregivers to be able to post their true feelings of how they feel and what they're going through, and if they're having a bad day. Another group that I am adminning is our Caregivers Life After Loss. So this group is for those of us that go through the caregiving and then we're left with the empty bed of our caregiver being gone. So that is the same. It's also private for us to help each other go through the groups. So far, that's what I'm involved in. So I will give it back to Jackie.
Thank you so much. And now I want to show you a little bit about what Nancy is doing.
So I was thrilled, like I said, first of all, to meet Jackie and Johnny Immerman and everything they do. They really, truly are an inspiration to helping so many. As I shared, my son was diagnosed with cancer. He was diagnosed with testicular cancer in 2007. 6 months before, he was diagnosed with a benign brain tumor. And at the end of that year, he went back to work finally and slipped on the ice and broke his ankle in 3 places. So we want to forget all about 2007 and what it offered. But Michael was 23 years old when he was diagnosed. And after that, diagnosis than treatment, and he's doing well today. He got very depressed, and it was a really hard time as a mom to watch him, to see what he was going through. I think for many survivors, it's that what just happened to me. For those that are lucky enough to get beyond treatment, but it never goes away. So it's looking in that rearview mirror of what happened to me, my life is different, now what? So in 2012, I founded Epic Experience. And what we do is we're a program for adult cancer survivors and thrivers to empower them to live beyond cancer. We started with week-long programs in Colorado. If you see my screen, you're seeing a picture at the top of the ranch at about 8,500 feet with a group of survivors on a hike. And we really wanted to offer hope, because it's that feeling of life just went upside down because of cancer. It changed everything. And there's ways to walk through that, and there's ways to empower. So our programs, we've had people with stage 4 cancer join us that were terminal and with medical clearance. Everybody comes with medical clearance, but it's about empowering people to maybe do things that they hadn't done before. During the winter, we're snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, and lots of other surprises. And then during the summer, we're going down the Colorado River, we're horseback riding. And we change that up for anybody who needs it. We try to let everybody come in that can come in. But we've seen amazing things from the beginning of 1 week, or excuse me, on a Sunday when people arrive and they're scared, and then we're a group with 10 other strangers they do not know. And they've gotten on that plane, or they're from Colorado. And that fear on Sunday night, it's like, we're gonna do what tomorrow? We're gonna go down the Colorado River. That's something a lot of people that have never had cancer or a serious event in their life have never done. And I can just tell you by Friday, it's magical. It is magical to watch what people feel empowered. We have lots of surprises I can't share with you. You gotta come to camp for some of those. But it's just an incredible thing. And I just, real quick, a story I share every time. It's a woman that came to camp, and our camps are for adults, as I shared, 18 and up. Our oldest camper has been 79. We had a woman come with stage 4 lung cancer in 2013. After camp, I found out she had been sleeping 12 hours a day because they told her she was gonna die. And she accepted that as that's what she was told. And at the time, lung cancer has come so far. And I am so happy. I love sharing her story. She is still alive today. And after she went home, she joined a dance class. She just started walking a little bit. And all of a sudden, and she says to me all the time, she's like, Mama Lou, my nickname at camp, she is, you saved my life. And I said, nope, you saved your own life. So the empowerment of connecting with other people and pushing beyond something is truly magical, and I'm blessed to do what I do. So I'll turn it back to Jackie.
So fun. Thank you so much for sharing. You can see why I have these amazing people on our panel. We definitely want to show all the support that's out there. So I know it's scary to ask for support. I know that, but please know that it is so powerful and there's so much to gain out of it. Don't be afraid. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Linda so she can share a little bit about what she's doing now.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, after our cancer journey, or during our cancer journey, we went through a lot of issues with his my husband Gabe's side effects with nausea, vomiting, the anxiety, the depression, so many, the list goes on and on, very weird things that he would go in for that, you know, so we try to find natural ways to heal, help him heal or help him cope and ease these symptoms. So we're like, now that he's been 5 years in remission, we're like, what can we come up with that will be a resource for other cancer patients? We're more of like naturalists. We like to find a way another way other than taking the pill. And so we decided to come up with a mobile app that will help cancer patients find curated professionals, whether it's an acupuncturist, a massage therapist, a chiropractor, an herbalist, a quick one-stop shop for patients to find these options, because it's not something that's just handed over to you when you're at the doctor. You know, it's not really in their scope of practice, and so it's hard for them to just give you a list of all these providers. You kind of have to look for it on your own and ask, you know, get it from word of mouth. So that's something that we've been working on, and you know, had we not gone through this journey, we probably would not be putting this together. So we're really grateful that our experience has turned into something positive and gives us something to work on, something that we can, you know, help others with. So our journey in helping is still continuing, and I think this will forever be a part of our lives, you know, and just trying to reach out to others, and you know, just to show you how empowering it is to have the support that we've had just by accepting. And a lot of times it's hard for people to accept because we weren't always the volunteers. And when all this happened to us, it was, you know, I had a good friend that told me, just, you know, you have to learn to receive. And that was one of the biggest shockers for me, to just sit back and accept it and take what's being given to me instead of giving and giving, because there's a lot of us that just love to give and just sit back and accept it. So thank you very much again, and handing it back to Jackie.
Linda, I think you just brought up a really good point, is that as caregivers, a lot of times we are not used to receiving support and help. And so one thing that I do want to mention is that at Immerman Angels, we oftentimes will receive phone calls or requests, and it'll be the caregiver saying, my loved one is going through X cancer or going through this experience. Can you connect them? And we're like, yes, but we can also help you too. So it is not uncommon for caregivers to feel guilt or to feel like they can't accept support. And I just want to make sure that you understand that, you know, I don't know if you've ever been on a plane, maybe everybody here has been on a plane at some point, and they tell you that the air mask will fall from the top of the airplane, and you are supposed to take that air mask and put it on yourself first, right? So you got to take in the air, you got to get the support you need as a caregiver first, and then you can put it on your loved one. And I remember the first time I heard that, even on an airplane, before all this cancer stuff happened, I was so mad. I said, of course I'm going to put it on my loved one first. And that's just a sign of a giver. But you got to remember that if you don't remember to breathe and you don't remember to get that support yourself, you're not going to be at your greatest. And so please, if there are caregivers watching, remember that. Ask for support too. So I know now we wanted to open it up to questions, and Nancy also wanted to share something else, so I'll give her the time to do that.
Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, in this time of the COVID-19 going on, we have, as we say at camp, adjusted our sails. So I want everybody to know we've started a lot of virtual programs along with a lot of other nonprofits, because although we can't meet in person right now, we are doing our best to keep people connected through yoga, through exercise. We do yoga 3 times a week, and we do an exercise class from one of our campers' sons out of Southern California, and they're all virtual. And it's just keeping us connected, because especially with cancer diagnosis, we've had a few people reach out to us that recently were diagnosed, and they also just finished treatment. So they were diagnosed last year, they just finished treatment, and normally that's a time of excitement. So there's a lot of resources out there. I did ask Jackie, I want to share a book that one of our campers wrote, and it's The Power of Connection. From coming to camp, she'd never written a book, but she was so moved. She wrote a book, and it's called Voices of Cancer. And it really is a wonderful book for caregivers, for medical teams, for survivors, to really read something. And for me, when I read it, even though I know everybody that was about the book, it was that connection of that's how I feel too. And quite often what people feel, others have felt before, which is why Immerman's Angels does what they do. So I just wanted to share that there are right now, there are still things available. Immerman's Angels always, no matter what. But in this time, there's a lot of other avenues for people to connect.
Thank you, Nancy. Yeah, so that's one thing to note. Like, we are going through the times that we're going, and a lot of support organizations are changing up their mission and how they're interacting with people. And the beauty of our mission is we really haven't had to change much. Of course, the staff is all working from home, but we are still connecting people all around the world. And so there was a question here that I wanted to address about caregivers from afar. Personally, at one point, I was a caregiver from afar, so I totally get how that is. It's very difficult. The anxiety level is extreme. One tidbit that I was able to do, so just for that specific question, was I was able to email with the doctor because he knew that I was afar, and he wasn't available for phone calls, but he was for email, and so he would address those questions. So I would write down my questions throughout the day and then email them out at night, knowing that he would be able to answer them, and that just gave me so much hope. And really lowered my anxiety. But I do want you to know too that we, the organization, can match caregivers from afar too. So that is part of what we do as well. And also, Elizabeth had mentioned her support group. They also have caregivers from afar. This is a thing, you know, you're not the only one in the world that's ever experienced it, and that's truly why we're all here today, is to point out that we've all been through these different experiences and you're not alone. And thank you for asking that particular question. And also another question that came our way was matching kids. So one of the things is that our scope is really large. We match all ages. So the answer to your specific question is yes, we do match young adults. So thank you for that. And hopefully, you know, you guys understand that it's all ages, all stages, all cancer types, all around the world. And we have plenty of different languages, as Linda had pointed out. We have Spanish support as well. In print, we have that. We have a bilingual support specialist that talks to the Spanish speakers specifically, and a ton of mentor angels that are Spanish speakers. But we also have Mandarin and just French. I mean, so many other languages. And if we don't have it, we always look for it. So our goal is always to make sure that no one's facing cancer alone. So we will definitely look high and dry for the support that you need. So thank you for that question. So I know that, like, other people have asked in the past, like, what makes us unique? Well, one of the things is about, you know, having all the cancer types and all the different situations. So one of the things is, you know, fertility. That's also an option. So if there's anybody out there, especially right now, dealing with, you know, the fertility situation, please reach out and ask for support. So I think Nancy wanted to share one of her stories. So let me let her on.
Yeah, a big part of what we're talking about today is just the power of connection, and how, you know, meeting Jackie, and then, you know, I started a nonprofit, and then Immerman Angels and us, we are introduced to Linda and get to be a part of her wedding. And it's the power of connection, I think, and reaching out. This is kind of not a direct call into Immerman's Angels, but a direct to Johnny Immerman. He was in an elevator with a woman in Chicago, and the woman in Chicago was on the phone with her nephew in Denver, and she was talking, it was just the two of them in the elevator, to her son, or her nephew, and he had been diagnosed with cancer. And Johnny could tell by the conversation. And of course, Johnny Immerman, being who he is, he said, I hope you don't mind, but it sounded like you were talking like a loved one was just recently diagnosed with cancer. And the first thing he said, because I'm in Denver, Colorado, he said, you need to reach out to Nancy Farrow, have him reach out, and she'll connect, and we'll also get him connected with Immerman's Angels. So it's the power of connection by sharing your story, by not being afraid to say, I have cancer. As a caregiver, you know, it is so stressful. We have done one camp for caregivers, and I can share that on Sunday they came in and they were all actually like all mad at us. There's like, why are we here? We shouldn't be there. It's all about the survivor. They shouldn't be here. You know, this is not for me. Monday night, their shoulders went down a little bit. Tuesday, all of a sudden they come back in and we have campfire every night and they are all in tears. And that's okay. It's realizing that a cancer diagnosis of a loved one, a friend, it's all about everybody in their life and that connection. So we are always after camp sharing Immerman Angels because, you know, people need to go home and still have that connection.
Thank you, Nancy. I know Elizabeth said she wanted to share a little bit more about her feelings about the power of connection as well, so I'll let her talk.
With the connections and how powerful they are, I think one of the reminders for Immerman Angels and reaching out for support is that family and friends are there for you and they can help and support with meals, etc. But there is nothing at all like being able to connect with someone that has been there, that, you know, understand your feelings and what you're going through, your fears as a caregiver, your concerns, and knowing that the other person on the other end of the phone or the email or the text message, you know, is there for you while you are there for your loved one. So I will give it back to Jackie.
So yeah, one of the other things that I wanted to mention too is I think something that people are not always aware of. So a lot of times Immerman Angels will go to a hospital. Right now we're not doing this, but ordinarily we'll go to a hospital, we'll meet with patients and the caregivers in the spot, and we'll talk to people and we'll tell them what we do. And I think people don't even realize how important it is to talk to somebody that's been there until they talk to somebody that's been there. Or at least, like, you know, they don't even know what they don't know kind of situation. So, you know, there's an imaginary wall that's built when you get the diagnosis or when your loved one gets this diagnosis, and it just exists and you don't know it. And then when you start meeting people that have similarities to you, it starts coming down. It's this feeling that, okay, wait, they get it. And the more you find out that they're similar to you, the more that wall comes down. And so that's kind of what our job is to do, is to try to get that wall to,
Uh-oh, looks like Jackie froze.
I did. There it is.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. So yeah, so the point is that we try to make it as simple as possible, and we know that asking for support is really hard. So we just want to try to make it as easy as can be. So all you do is just go to our website, www.immermanangels.org. Check it out. Check out our Facebook pages. Check out all our social media and see we're really nice people. So, and we will try to make this terrible experience just a little bit easier for you. And I know Nancy had said she wanted to say some more, so I'm going to put Nancy back on.
Yeah, I just, I can't say enough about connection and what Gryt is doing in, especially at this time of mental health issues. I think it's so important to be reaching out, and avenues like Immerman Angels are out there to do that. Gryt. There's a lot of nonprofits and professionals for people right now. We've had a number of people, more than usual, that are reaching out to me, and they're having stressful times. Their kids are having a tough time because they're stuck at home. To have a teenager whose lifeblood is other teenagers be stuck at home, and then if you're going through cancer on top of that, or recently have lost somebody, it's a lot to take on. So I think the emotional stress of everything that's going on right now with COVID and colliding with cancer is what we call it. We recently had a psychologist come on who she herself is a cancer survivor, and on a Facebook Live in our Beyond Cancer series, and we had a lot of questions, more than usual. It was our biggest attended thing of people, how do I deal with this? I've got PTSD now because all of a sudden I had cancer. I had to be down for 9 months before I was excited to be out living again. And now all of a sudden I'm back home, and it's bringing up things that are really hard to deal with. And maybe a person didn't deal with it back then. And so it's culminating into a hard time. So I would just really encourage people to ask for help if you need it. First step, go to Immerman's Angels. That's it. Call your doctor, but reach out to people and ask for help. There are resources out there for everybody. And I think, again, a cancer diagnosis is a unique thing. And there's things we can all do to connect. Epic Experience, we've been taking lunches to the University of Colorado Cancer Center once a week to the medical staff. We drive in, it's in the back of my car. They open it up in the back and come out with gloves and masks. So I can't say enough of the support. And it feels good to give back. Even at this time, there's things we can do. So Jackie, back to you.
Thank you, Nancy. So one of the questions that I was asked was how many staff members we have. So yeah, it's kind of crazy when we think about it. So we are a very tiny staff. So we only have 10 full-time employees right now, but really we only have 2.5 full-time connecting cancer support specialists. So we get a lot done in a little bit with a little bit of staff. But a whole lot of power and a whole lot of passion behind it. Somebody else had asked about our staff. So we have 2 MSWs that are connecting, and one of them is a caregiver herself. One of them is a patient who actually changed his whole life plan because he was originally a support seeker, and we matched him. He got connected to a mentor. He then became a mentor, and he realized that this was so therapeutic for him that he wanted to give back every day. And so now he is an MSW, and he's working for us and changing lives every day. So it's really exciting to see that. And then we also have our Spanish speaking support specialist. So we have an awesome team, and I'm so grateful to be a part of it, and really, get all these connections. I mean, the fact that we have this panel on, I wanted to just highlight some of the things, the ripple effect of what's happening, and let you guys know that you just never know what's going to happen when you ask for support, And I mean, I'm sure that Linda did not expect to have a full-blown wedding given to her when she reached out to become a mentor with us. And it's just asking for help, and we're there, so we'll try to connect anybody in any situation. And I think when you are at home and you're thinking about, like, should I give back, if you're at that point, or should I ask for support, it's really up to you. But you can always give us a call. The fact that you're thinking about it is going in the right direction. So just don't be afraid to ask for support. Reach out, go on the website, give us a call, we'll chat with you. If you're, at the point where you're thinking about giving back, as you see, Elizabeth and I both lost our loved ones, and Linda lost her nephew, and but that's not all the support we give for caregivers. So, luckily, like Nancy and Linda also have their loved ones who are thriving and doing amazing things. And so we're so grateful for those caregivers as well. So anywhere where you are in your experience and you feel comfortable about sharing and helping someone else, just reach out. There's no real time to become a mentor angel. No set time. No, you don't have to wait until you're a year out of treatment. None of that. You just have to be willing and ready. And you never know what's going to happen. Elizabeth and I were connected years and years ago. We're way beyond mentee and mentor now. We're lifelong friends. At least I hope so. I'll see what she says. But I like to think we're lifelong friends. And, we do have people that get connected for one or two questions. They might just have one thing that's on their brain and they just can't get it addressed from anybody else. Johnny, who's the founder of Immerman Angels, he started the organization because he was a 2-time testicular cancer fighter, and he didn't want to ask his mom how it felt like dating after having testicular cancer. Guess what? She couldn't answer that. She could say, yes, you're going to be okay, but she definitely couldn't say how it was going to be after getting back into the dating life. And he had his brother there, and his brother's like, yeah, man, you're going to be all right. Well, that's great. But that doesn't really help you and tell you how it's going to feel like when that chemo goes in, So these are the questions that we like to answer. We've had people that have unfortunately gone through divorces because of their cancer, and we were able to connect them to other people that have gone through cancer and went through a divorce. And even one of my favorite connection stories is that we were able to connect somebody that was going through a divorce to a mentor angel who had already gone through a divorce, but had just returned from his second honeymoon. So not only were we able to show this person that there's somebody there that understands the meaning of the loss of the divorce and the cancer, but then also inspire them and have them understand that they can find love and new light at the end of that tunnel. So you just never know. And I see that we do have a ton of mentor angels on showing that they are mentors too. So thank you for that support. I appreciate it. So I think that, if anybody had any more questions, I would love to see some more of the questions. But I think, the point is that you guys are on this, and Gryt put this amazing panel together, or this whole day together. And I'm hoping that you all are taking advantage of all the great resources that are available to you. Most of these resources are completely free. So when I was going through my experiences, this stuff didn't exist. And I just wish that it did. And I'm so glad that now these people that have gone through these experiences have really gotten together. I think Linda had mentioned that, you're not always so lucky to have so much support out there, that not all disease types are like the cancer world. I do find in the cancer world, we are definitely collaborative, and we want to work together and help support. So when you reach out to Immerman, even if we are not exactly what you're looking for, we will try to connect you to the best resource that makes sense for you. So do know that as well. We're very good with navigating and getting the word out. We refer people all the time to Nancy for Epic Experience. So, and definitely other organizations as well. So it's just, make sure that you just feel comfortable and get the support you need. So I think Elizabeth wanted to say something, so I'll let her take the mic.
I think with Immerman Angels and, the cancer caregiving in general, I think for most of us, we all agree that it is a group that we don't ever want to be a part of. You don't ever want to know that your loved one has cancer, or that you're going to have to stop your life to care for someone else. But I think with Immerman Angels, it has turned, something so negative into something so positive. And it's been therapeutic in my healing to help others through it, and to know that you can be there for someone else makes my mom's death, it seems a little easier, because, it gives you the hope to help someone else, or the hope to hear your mentor or mentee angel smile or laugh on the phone, or, it just turns something into positive. So thank you.
I know somebody just asked about the book I mentioned called Voices of Cancer, and I love sharing stories of connection. So Linda was at camp, wrote stories, and I don't know if anybody can see because I have my background, but the cover of the book is paintings that were done by one of our other campers. He heard she was writing a book, and this is a gentleman that had stopped painting after his cancer diagnosis. He came to camp, and the connections he made there, which is really what we're about, he started painting again. He started taking pictures again. He started living his life. It looks different. He's back in treatment now. He's the most amazing man, but he paints every day. And I connected he and Linda together, and he did 20 paintings of our campers, and she put that on the cover of her book. And it's the real faces of cancer, which is the book Voices of Cancer. But I really do encourage anybody to look for it. There's lots of great books out there and videos and resources, but it truly, I think, is a great book that's written from the heart, and it gives an understanding of what a cancer survivor really feels like for those that don't understand. And it's hard. Even when my son had cancer, I remember looking at him, his dad, and he got, not in a big fight, but one day his dad looked at him and said, "I know how you feel." And Michael got really upset. And it gets back to that connecting to somebody else who's lived what you lived. Because Michael looked at him and he said, "No, you don't." And even though we're his parents and we try and we want to be there for him, that power of connection to other survivors that Immerman Angels offers is life-changing. And so people know they're not alone.
Thank you, Nancy. I know one of the things that I was just thinking about is, and I hadn't mentioned, is currently I'm a caregiver to my sister. She's going through stage 4 breast, and she contemplated doing cold capping. And so I had never had that experience of cold capping, but of course I was going to be on her team. And so I had to use the service again myself. And so I reached out to somebody who did cold capping, and I connected with her, and my sister connected with her to make sure that it made sense for us, and everybody has to make their own choices on that. But I'm so grateful that we did. There were so many times she had said, "You're going to have to tell yourself it's worth it." And my sister had repeated that throughout her whole treatment. And I am glad to say she has all her hair, and she is done with chemo, and she's doing awesome. So I definitely wanted to share that experience as well. You know, I hope never to use this service myself again, but you know, it is great when you need that connection. So I definitely want to thank you guys for spending your time with us, and you know, reach out if you need us. And I think that Lauren's gonna take back over the mic. So appreciate you all. Good luck and take care.
Thank you, Jackie. And thank you to everybody who was in our session, our Block 3 session. Tom, Lawana from Caring Bridge, and then Jackie and your wonderful panel from Emmerman Angels. Thank you so much for joining us. Just want to let all of our attendees know that once you leave this session, once you exit out, what you will do to join the next block, which is Block 4, beginning in about 1 minute, you will just, if you're on your computer, you just need to scroll down and then hit the join button for Block 4. If you're on your phone and you exit out of this session, it's probably going to make you go ahead and go back to the conference website, grytmentalhealthsummit.com, and you'll just go back into the conference site there. But go ahead, head on over, exit out of here, and join us for Block 4, learning some mantras from Casey Head, a cancer survivor. And we're going to get you up and get moving to do some yoga with Kim Lowe. So I hope to see you over there. Thank you.